Welcome to WWDMD, a podcast that is all about peeling back the curtain on what clinicians really think and feel as they work with others. My guests, clinicians, who are also sometimes clients themselves, risk their vulnerability as they publicly share their emotional reactions to their clients, disclose their challenges in doing the work, and reveal their personal backgrounds. I'm Dr. Meyers. I'm a psychotherapist in New York City with 30 years of practice experience, specializing in anxiety and depressive disorders, as well as sibling relationships and family systems. I'm also a professor of social work at Malloy University on Long Island. I see this as a journey of self-reflection for not only our guests, but you, because with each episode, I'm hopeful that you will learn something new about yourself. Please note that any discussion of case details have been modified to protect the privacy of our clients.
What would Dr. Meyers do?
Hey everyone. You know those moments when you listen to a podcast or you read a paragraph or you hear someone describe an experience and suddenly think, wait, I thought I was the only one who felt that way? That feeling of being seen is exactly why I started a blog. So, over the last 3.5 years, this podcast has created conversations that I am incredibly proud of. But I have realized that there are topics and reflections I'd like more space to explore. I have learned so much from this podcast about my colleagues, my students, folks who are beginning this career, those who have been working as mental health practitioners and social workers for most of their lives, and everyone else not in the profession who craves this material. What material exactly? The kind that makes them learn more about themselves, that provides expertise on a wealth of mental health topics, that offers the human side of practitioners, that makes them feel validated in their experiences, their stories, and practice. And I'm thrilled at the learning that has come from those who just want to understand themselves and others, and who have told me that they've gained insight and, as a result, have learned new ways of coping, of healing, and living a more peaceful and just satisfied existence. Sometimes they've even found answers to questions they had, and those they never knew they had. So, moving forward to my next project has given me pause to reflect on my gratitude because I continue to gain from producing this podcast. And when I no longer gain, I'll no longer produce. I'm grateful that there are so many folks out there, my guests, willing to share their vulnerabilities in their work, their expertise, and allow me to learn from them and connect with them. I really feel like my network is a gift. I'm also so very grateful to be able to provide a medium where survivors of sibling abuse feel supported and validated and are learning about what they've experienced is actually called abuse and the challenges that they have as a result, and that they're not alone in those experiences and feelings. I'm grateful that they're also hearing from others who have survived, providing hope for a better future. We spend so much time trying to project that we have life figured out while we all privately struggle with anxiety or shame or grief or relationships, our identity, burnout, or simply being human. And honestly, that's why I wanted to create this blog. I also realized from my listeners and my clients and my students that people are struggling, right? It confirmed what I already knew and I already lived, even when there's a lot of wins in between. Life is demanding, and there's a lot of pressure in our culture to take on so very much. People are pedaling fast without having a moment to commiserate on the tough stuff. And I think people are exhausted. People wonder, do others feel like I do? Am I an imposter in my work? I'm afraid to ask what I don't know because then I'll be seen as unfit. When do people actually get to feel heard and seen? And I wanted to provide that space. One thing, well, among many, one thing I've realized though from hosting this podcast is that some topics may be better absorbed through a 2 to 3 minute read. some ideas and stories and the feelings. Am I alone in my thoughts or my experience or my fears? They deserve reflection. And sometimes I do believe that things that are in print can be absorbed at a different pace and on one's own time. And there are room for pauses. And I think sometimes on this podcast, information is coming so quickly. Maybe a hit rewind, but it can be hard to take in all of it. So that's why sometimes I say to myself, well, at least if folks walk away with one meaningful idea, then, maybe I've done something worthwhile. So I wanted to create an additional resource for folks who want to learn, reflect, and build community and connection. And that's what led me to create this blog, a space to offer support, validation, education, and inspiration. Yes, I'm going to tell you about the blog. Give me a second. I just want to say that I didn't start the blog because I think I have all the answers. I started it because I know how powerful it can feel to read words that make you feel seen. So today's episode is a little different because I am introducing this new blog that I'm incredibly excited about. It's called Between Practice and Purpose, and it can be found at bpp3voices.com. I'll say it again at the end, but it's B as in boy, well, B as in between, P as in practice, and P as in purpose, the number 3, voices.com. So I want to share a little bit about why I started it and what you'll find there and how it connects to the heart of this podcast. So, along with wanting to be creative in another form, such as writing, I was seeing a couple of my students stand out in their writing ability. They were critical thinkers, deeply insightful and reflective, and open with their feelings and experiences. They weren't glossing over to impress their professor, but the kind of writing that really moves you, makes you go, wow. And trust me, professors read a lot of papers. So when you stop and think, whoa, who wrote this? You notice. I really was blown away. I was blown away by their ability to express themselves beyond their years and felt that they were reflecting on ideas and thoughts that most people are too scared or feel too vulnerable to share. And I asked them to join me in this project. So Maria Sosa and Alma Calderon are two BSW recent graduates who are incredibly talented. I spoke with them for hours about creating a blog that reflects the real life mess and meaning of life that I'm sure will resonate with most of you. It's also about finding meaning and learning as we move through our work. And as I said before, it's not about, purporting that we have all the answers or sounding like experts. It's about curiosity, honesty, and growth. Growth we've made, growth we're struggling with, growth that may come out from writing the reflection, let alone growth for you from reading it. We're going to talk about the moments no one prepares you for, the self-doubt, our uncertainty, burnout, and also the moments where you suddenly realize, wow, maybe I really am meant for this work. So it's unfiltered vulnerability. Expect confessions, real talk, and tools for surviving the in-between. So I'd like to read my first blog on loneliness, which you can find on the blog, bpp3voices.com. I'm going to start to sound like a commercial. And I wrote this piece because I've been thinking a lot about loneliness, not just being physically alone, but the experience of feeling disconnected, even when we're constantly connected, right? Through social media, sitting in rooms with people, even through Zoom. But is it the same as, it once was? And so I do think that everyone can relate to this in some way. Um, okay, so here I go. We're living in a culture of loneliness. In fact, it's now referred to as the epidemic of loneliness experienced by approximately 80% of Americans. The number is staggering. Why? Because loneliness feels so personal. Most people think it's just me. Something must be wrong with me. But clearly, this is collective. This is cultural. Even our Surgeon General has warned that loneliness can affect physical, mental, and social health. Generation Z is considered the loneliness of generations due to an increased reliance on social media. I deplore social media in some respects due to its propensity for competition of a better life, the proclivity for dis and misinformation, online bullying, and the breeding of an inability to communicate and connect. But that's probably another blog. However, the response to loneliness seems to be an immersion in social media, which ironically creates a false sense of kinship while avoiding true connection, or as an attempt to resolve the feelings of loneliness. Another result of the access to social media either creates or rectifies an inability to be alone with oneself. The ability to be with one's company proves challenging, whether it's in a doctor's waiting room, public transportation, having a meal, sometimes even with another person, or being at home. Quick remedy, just pick up your phone. I consider myself to have the freedom to be alone and range from enjoying it, soliciting it, embracing it, or on some days tolerating it. How about you? Do you seek it out? Do you actively enjoy it or simply accept it? Does it make you depressed? Do you need to be active most of the time? Do you want to be engaged with others most of the time? Maybe there's a difference as to when it feels like a choice versus when it is imposed. For example, like nobody is available. When that occurs, I work towards accepting it and leaning into it. So one night, I was pleasantly aware of just how much I was enjoying some alone time in a way I may not have experienced before. What created this, I wondered? I craved it. After an extremely busy, nonstop period of work and personal obligations, which rendered me both exhausted and surrounded by people all the time, I decided to take the East River Ferry in Manhattan during daylight and return from the seaport at nighttime with city lights abound. The breeze on the ferry was delightful. I took a walk along the river and found myself seated on a wooden lounge chair next to a couple. Only they didn't seem like a couple. The woman had on an engagement ring, though the vibe between them was undetectable. It could have been a first date, a deep friendship, a looming marriage. Somehow I couldn't capture it, and I was having fun trying to figure it out. They were happy to engage in conversation with me when I lightheartedly asked them about the nature of the relationship. Also, apparently, on this particular evening, I appointed myself head of the unofficial relationship investigation unit. Was I being too bold? Perhaps. Intrusive? Maybe. But I tend to have a style that works, she said in defense. I pride myself on my ability as a therapist to read people well, but something was amiss. Was it me? Was it them? It turned out that they were good friends who were completing their final semester of their MBA. We engaged in conversation, and after a short while, the man left to attend a social event. So the woman and I talked easily for another 2 hours. She was half my age, but we had much in common: the same humor, an immediate comfort, and an ease with reflection and sharing personal thoughts with depth. Was I truly alone that night? I took a 1 hour ferry ride each way. I sat by myself for a short while before engaging. Perhaps the moral of the story is: one, being confident about being alone makes the time more enjoyable. Two, enjoying one's own company is essential to meeting others. How can others like us if we don't like ourselves? If we're anxious or sad, what are we projecting to others? If your internal voice is not kind, start replacing your voice with a kinder voice of others. Three, being confident unconsciously attracts other people. We all know the idea that we get what we put out. If we choose to remain anonymous, we will remain alone, whether at that moment in time or as a general state. Four, being alone allows opportunity. If I were with someone I knew, would I have made the effort to engage with someone else, someone new? If you go to the blog, I offer some steps you can take to combat loneliness. But the blog continues. If you're really feeling stuck, have difficulty mobilizing towards efforts that may shift your feelings and potential situation, reach out to a mental health professional. Loneliness makes people feel they are flawed, and there's a lot of shame attached to it. That's social media. That's our society. You are not inadequate. You are not a failure. You are not unlikable, and you're certainly not alone in your loneliness. If you feel alone in your feeling of loneliness, consider that others may just be very good at concealing it, maybe even overcompensating by posting on social media. Work on shifting your perception of yourself. Take charge, be tender to yourself, and know that you deserve to feel better. Well, thanks for listening, if it's your first time. And thanks for listening, if you've stuck with me. People asked me at the beginning of this podcast venture, and still now, what do I want to get out of it? So for me personally, I've already met my goal: to engage with the community and have great dialogues and learn and grow personally and professionally. And for you, I hope the same and more. Maybe you have a keener sense of self-understanding. Maybe you found a place to feel validated and find some support and know that others are imperfect but can still have wins. So, what do I want now? I guess I hope you continue to grow, whether through the podcast or the blog. So, comment, subscribe to the blog, share posts that resonate with you, and continue being part of these conversations with us. Because the truth is, this space becomes more meaningful when it feels like a dialogue instead of a monologue. I mean, who likes monologues? And here I am doing one. But generally speaking, I really abhor being spoken at. I want to engage. So, thanks for being part of this community. I truly hope these spaces continue helping people feel more understood and more connected and a little less alone. I'll be back as usual in 2 weeks, and the blog is live now. Come read me and my colleagues at bpp3voices.com. That's between practice and purpose, the number 3voices.com.